So the chances are, if you're watching this, you've probably found that fat loss feels harder than ever. And even though you're probably training, eating clean, doing all the things you feel like you should be doing, that stubborn belly fat won't go away. Now there's a reason for this. And in today's video, I'm going to break down exactly what's happening. And I'm going to show you the exact methods, strategies, tools that men over 30 are using to burn fat, build muscle, and become healthier, happier versions of themselves. After 30, there are three main factors you need to be aware of. And if you don't account for these three things in your training and your nutrition, instead of torching fat and seeing those abs, you'll get stuck feeling lethargic, battling your hunger and cravings, and you'll have that stubborn belly fat that just won't go away. And the truth is, this is where 99% of men over 30 are. It's the reason they're not seeing results. It's the reason that fat loss feels so hard. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down these three things, and I'm going to show you how you can put fat loss on easy mode, and I'm going to show you a better way of doing things. Number one is metabolic fatigue. After 30, you have to be much more strategic with your fat loss. As your fat and weight starts to come down, your body starts to increase your energy inputs, your hunger and cravings start to increase. And then as weight starts to come down further, it starts to slow down your energy output. So your metabolism slows down. That's when you get tired, you get lethargic. And when these two come together, it's called adaptive thermogenesis. Now in your 20s, you can get away with this. You can just white knuckle through when your metabolism's firing at a faster rate. But when you're in your 30s, you build this diet fatigue up so much faster. That is the reason that you can spin your wheels for month on end. You build up this diet fatigue, your hunger and cravings go through the roof, and it's a very unpleasant place to be. And most people end up getting frustrated, they end up falling off plan, and then they end up rebounding. And that's why in today's video, I'm going to break down the exact strategies you need as a man over 30 so you can torch fat without crushing your metabolism or without white knuckling your way through hunger and cravings. So number two is the recovery drop off. And I see this all the time when there is an imbalance between your training and recovery, because most people think if they're not seeing results, it's because they're not doing enough. So they add more cardio, more training. And instead of building muscle and getting lean, all that happens is they get tired, lethargic, sore, and their energy drops through the floor. Now there's two main camps I see with men over 30 that I speak to. Number one is the cardio camp. This whole process is about burning fat and building muscle, improving your body composition. So many people overdo cardio, and instead of burning fat, their body will break down their muscle tissue, and they end up with this skinny fat body composition where they look skinny with a t-shirt on, but they've got this soft, untoned look. Cardio is not necessary for fat loss, and if you don't strategically implement it in the right way, it can make things so much harder. You'll constantly be battling your hunger and cravings, and it's the reason you have this soft, untoned, stubborn belly fat that won't go away. Number two is the junk volume camp. I see it all the time. Men going into the gym, doing random sets for random amount of reps, jumping on whatever machine is free, or following random workouts from an app. And the problem is you can get away with this in your 20s when you're hyper responsive, when your body responds so much faster. But when you're in your 30s, all that happens is you fall into this junk volume category. You're not causing the micro tears you need to build that lean muscle and burn that fat. So instead of getting stronger, instead of feeling more energized, your central nervous system fatigue builds up, your muscle damage, metabolic waste all builds up. You find yourself tired, sore, lethargic, and your body still doesn't represent the amount of hard work you're putting in. And number three, and probably the most important one, is the friction loop. Most people have no idea what works. They're confused by all the conflicting information. They're listening to fitfluencers or nutrition gurus. They just try and throw everything at the wall. It becomes unsustainable, unenjoyable. It creates too many friction points. A friction point is where the goals you want to achieve clash with the life you want to live. Yes, you want to get in shape, burn fat, but you don't want to do it at the cost of not being able to have big family dinners or go away for weekends away with your family or holidays without feeling anxious or having to track every single calorie. When you are trying to follow these one-size-fits-all approach that aren't built for your lifestyle, you create too many of these friction points. And the more friction points you create, the more opportunities there are to fall off plan, and the more difficult the process becomes. And this whole process of burning fat, building muscle is about enhancing your life. And if it's forcing you to sacrifice things you enjoy, if it's making your life so much harder, then it's a massive contradiction, and there is a much better way of doing things. All of these factors come together, the metabolic fatigue, the recovery drop-off, the friction loop, to create what I call the stagnant man, which is where 99% of men over 30 are. It's why fat loss feels so hard. It's why it feels like you're constantly putting in a ton of effort, you're constantly dieting, you're constantly training, and you're getting no results in return. And I know this, guys, because I was the stagnant man for almost 3 years, following these rigid one-size-fits-all approach, creating too many friction points between the life I wanted to live and the goals I wanted to achieve. I thought if I wasn't seeing results, I wasn't doing enough, so I did more workouts, more cardio, and I'd eat clean and cut out all the foods I enjoyed. Instead of getting lean and athletic and burning fat, I was just stuck in a loop of overtraining, undereating. I was able to kind of be good all week when I was locked into routine and didn't have distractions, but when the weekend rolled around and life inevitably got in the way, I would binge eat, and I would scratch my head, look in the mirror every Sunday evening and be like, what the hell is going on? And the problem with this stagnant man approach is it required my willpower and my motivation to be an 8.5 out of 10 just to stick to it, because the barrier resistance was so high. Training 5-6 times a week, ton of cardio, eating clean, not eating out. It wasn't realistic for my life, so I needed to rely on willpower and motivation to stick to it. And yes, I could for the first week when the novelty was high, my motivation was high, but inevitably the novelty would wear off and I'd hit one of these friction points, go out for dinner, and then I would eat something that I demonized almost as bad. And then my motivation would drop. And then I'd have a chat with myself on Sunday night and be like, Ollie, you said you were going to do this. Come on. My motivation would jump back up. I'd stick to it for the first couple of weeks. And then something would happen with my kid. Wouldn't be able to get to the gym. I would fall off plan, have a word with myself on the Sunday night, and I would just repeat this process over and over again. And that is how it can feel, like you're constantly dieting, constantly training and getting no results in return. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. And that's exactly what most people do. Everything changed for me when my wife gave me this book by Deepak Chopra called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. I had this massive light bulb moment when I was reading Law 4, The Law of Least Effort. Basically talked about when you fight against your reality, you create friction. The harder you push towards your goal, the further away they get. And ultimately, that's the best way to set yourself up for failure and live an unfulfilled life. It hit me like a ton of bricks because I was doing this to become a healthier, happier version of me, and it was creating the exact opposite effect. It then went on to say that when you reduce the friction between your goals and the life you want to live, you create a momentum loop, and that's what makes results feel effortless. Momentum builds consistency, consistency drives results, and then guess what? Results create motivation and confidence. Confidence isn't built by shouting affirmations in the mirror, it's built by saying, I'm going to do something, doing it, seeing a result. When I was following this stagnant man approach, throwing everything at the wall, the barrier resistance was so high. It had to be an 8.5 out of 10 just to stick to it. But when I scaled everything back and got really clear on an approach to my nutrition and training that slotted into my lifestyles, training 2 to 3 times a week, I wasn't doing any cardio, I wasn't following any strict meal plans, and in fact, I just had a couple of flexible nutrition tools that made sticking to my calorie deficit as easy as possible. I was able to build momentum. I started to see results, and I started to see changes in the body composition in the mirror, but week 6 is where something magical happened. I'd built enough momentum, enough consistency that I really started to see some tangible change, some change in my body composition. Motivation appeared, confidence appeared. I finally said I was going to do something, stuck to it long enough to see a result. And this momentum loop was so powerful, it became almost impossible to stop. I had an approach to my nutrition and training that I could actually stick to even on the days I didn't feel like it. My motivation and confidence was an all-time high because I was seeing results. Before I knew it, I had completely transformed my body composition, doing 80% less than I was doing before, and I went from this stagnant man, low energy, low confidence, to the momentum man, and everything in my life improved. My confidence, my energy to play with my kids, my relationship. This is exactly why I was doing it. Yes, I wanted to get in shape, but actually I wanted to be a healthier, happier version of me for my family. And all of this came together, guys, to create my minimum effective dose method. This is all about achieving more by doing less better, reducing those friction points and building out an approach to your nutrition and training that you can stick to even on the days you don't feel like it. So momentum builds consistency, consistency drives results, and results brings motivation and confidence, and that's exactly what this process is about. There are 4 pillars that make up the minimum effective dose method. Number 1 is the flexible nutrition toolkit. We're moving away from this outdated approach to nutrition where you cut out carbs or demonize food groups or follow rigid meal plans, and we're moving towards a flexible, evidence-based approach to your nutrition, where we install 2 to 3 flexible nutrition tools that slot around your life, so you can go away on weekends away, have dinners out with your wife, or holidays without feeling anxious like you're going to fall off plan. And in fact, you have all the tools, the strategies you need to drop up to 1 kilogram of fat per week without feeling restricted, without crashing your metabolism, battling your hunger and cravings, or being stuck and tied to a rigid meal plan. My client Tom's a perfect example. He was in a really tricky place. He had lost about 8 kilos on his own, white knuckling his way through it, basically just cutting out all the foods he enjoyed, but his results had stopped and he was confused. So when he came to us, we installed our metabolic reset protocol. He built up this diet fatigue, and because he was doing what I call the continuous dieting approach, just basically dropping his calories and sticking to it for as long as he could, he'd hit this point where his body started to fight back. We reset his metabolism, we reset his energy levels, we gave him a psychological break, and then we installed 2 flexible nutrition tools. Nothing was off limits, so he couldn't fall off plan, and the best nutrition plan is the one you can actually stick to. And Tom was able to torch 12 kilos of body fat and pack on 4 kilos of lean muscle. Even though he was leaner than ever before, he was eating more. And that's exactly what this process is about. It's about strategically working through fat loss phases, having times where you come out your calorie deficit, you reset your metabolism, and that is how you transform your body. You don't just white knuckle your way through it. That is the best way to set yourself up for failure and make this process so much harder than it has to be. And as you can see, Tom completely transformed his body and he looked like a completely different person. Pillar number 2 is our minimalist training protocol, guys. Remember, the biggest mistake you can make when you're not seeing results is thinking you're not doing enough. Most people will pile on cardio, add more weight sessions, and instead of burning fat and building muscle, they build up this central nervous system fatigue, this metabolic waste, and they get hungry, they get tired, lethargic, and their body composition does not change. It's the biggest mistake you can make. So we focus on scaling your training back so you can build muscle, strip fat, training 2 to 3 times a week. You don't have to do any cardio and you get in the shape of your life without living in the gym. That's such an important point, guys. Most of us don't want to be bodybuilders. We just want to build a lean, athletic physique. My client Charlie is a perfect example. He came to us with a typical skinny fat body composition. He was training 5-6 times a week. He was doing a ton of cardio. He was doing an exercise class called Barry's Boot Camp in London, which is basically like a lot of cardio, running on the treadmill, doing light weights. And because he was expending so much energy, he was really struggling, not only to pack on muscle, because there was an imbalance between his training and recovery, but he was struggling to keep his hunger and cravings under control. So he was able to white knuckle it through work, but when he got home, he would just raid the cupboards. When he came to us, we stripped everything back. He was training 2 to 3 times a week. He was doing absolutely no cardio. He was able to get his hunger and cravings under control. We were able to find that balance between his training and recovery. He torched 5 kilos of body fat and packed on 4 kilos of lean muscle. And as you can see, he completely transformed his body composition. He looks like a completely different person. He went from tired, lethargic, overtraining, undereating, to having way more energy, feeling so much more confident about himself, his body composition, and yeah, he's just radiating a completely different energy in this picture on the right. He looks like a completely different person. Pillar number 3 is our confidence catalyst. Every time you say you're going to do something and you don't do it and you let yourself down, you lose trust and you lose confidence, not only in yourself, but the process. So one of the most important things is to build that confidence back up, build that trust back up in yourself. And one way we do that is by installing our win tracker. And these micro wins build momentum, build consistency. That's what gets results, and then confidence and motivation appears. This system does not require motivation, guys. I can't express that enough. My client Stuart is a perfect example of this. He came to us at a pretty low moment. He had just got divorced, so his confidence was naturally at a very low level already. He was trying to get in shape, make himself feel better. He wanted to get back on the dating scene. He had no idea what worked, so he was trying to do everything. It was unsustainable, unenjoyable. It was clashing with the life he wanted to live. He kept falling off plan. It was chipping away at his confidence. So we immediately installed our win tracker, stacked up those micro wins, build that momentum, that consistency. He completely transformed his body composition. He torched 6 kilos of body fat, packed on 3 kilos of lean muscle. And as you can see, over 90 days, he completely transformed his body composition. But not only that, he improved the relationship with himself, his confidence, his trust in himself. He was in a position where he was ready to find someone to settle down with. And I actually introduced him to his now wife, who was the head baker at my wife's coffee shop at the time. And they hit it off and they're now married and they have a beautiful child together. This is just a prime example of that beautiful domino effect that getting in shape, burning fat, building muscle and becoming a healthier, happier version of yourself can have on the rest of your life. And this basically just sums up why I love my job, guys. I know how powerful this system is. So the final pillar of the M.E.D method is the habit mastery system, guys. It blows my mind the amount of times I'm chatting to people, I'm saying, you know, tell me what you've done in the past that's worked. And they're like, oh, I tried keto, I tried this, I tried that, worked really well. I'm like, great, where are your results? And they're like, well, I did get results, but ended up falling off plan and rebounding. Life got in the way. I went on holiday or had kids or whatever it is. And it's like, well, it didn't work then, because the goal's not to see results and then rebound. It's to have an approach to nutrition and training that you can stick to long enough to see life-changing results. You can turn around in 6 months, 9 months, even a year from now and be absolutely blown away by your progress. And that's exactly what the habit mastery system does, guys. We use a habit loop matrix to break old behavior patterns. And then we use our habit stack method to lock in simple behaviors that are in line with the person you want to become. So staying on track feels automatic. This isn't a short-term fix, guys. This is designed to be the last transformation you will ever need. I want to give you all the tools and strategies you need to not only maintain your results, but continue to get results long after we're done working together. All of these 4 pillars come together to create our minimum effective dose method. This is an extremely powerful system, guys. And the promise is within the first 90 days, I hope you torch up to 8 kilos of body fat, pack on 4 kilos of lean muscle and completely transform your body composition, training 2 hours a week and a couple of flexible nutrition tools running in the background. We even have a guarantee because I want to remove that barrier of resistance. I know what it feels like to be spinning your wheels, being in a situation where you've let yourself down so many times that you're actually struggling to believe that you can actually do this. But this isn't a one-off, guys. This is a proven system that works, and all you have to do is have the courage to take action and then sit back, relax and enjoy the process. You have 3 options moving forward. You can keep doing what you're doing, but the chances are you'll let your emotions get in the way, you'll second guess yourself, you'll jump from program to program, and you'll never be able to stick to anything long enough to see the results you're after. And you'll get stuck in this rebound cycle, wait for another pain moment where a holiday's coming up, someone says something, you just repeat this process over and over again. Or you can continue to figure out yourself, but most people second guess themselves. They jump from one thing to another and they waste a ton of energy and a ton of time only to end up back at square one. Or number 3 is you can invest in a proven system that works. I'll help you transform your body composition, burn fat, build muscle, training 2 hours a week, installing a couple of flexible nutrition tools. So not only can you get in the best shape of your life, but ultimately you can become a healthier, happier version of you, for your friends, for your family, because that's what this process is about. So if you've watched this and you want to move from that all or nothing approach to that minimum effective dose method, if you want to go from training 4 to 5 times a week, doing a ton of cardio, to training 2 times a week and installing our minimalist training protocol, if you want to move away from clean eating and demonizing foods and in fact have a couple of flexible nutrition tools running in the background, then this is going to be perfect for you guys. So if you want to find out more about a 90-day M.E.D transformation program, all you do is head over to my Instagram, direct message me the word interested, and I'll send all the information over in a Google document. There's no sales call, there's no pressure. You can have a read through and see if it's going to be a good fit for you. If you're here, you're watching this, is obviously important to you. I know what it feels like to spinning your wheels, feeling like what you're doing isn't working and feeling like your body doesn't represent the amount of hard work you're putting in. I promise you guys, there's a better and easier way of doing things, and the hardest part is taking action. If you do, you will not regret it. This will be the start of a very successful transformation journey.